So with the struts being up front here under the dash, it's a bit tricky to get those bolts off with that top hat being so tall. So what I did to get the first two nuts off, which are a 14 millimeter, is I have this articulating ratcheting wrench. It made getting this one and that one off much easier. I would recommend having one of these. If you don't, a regular wrench would do it. It's just tricky because you have your pedals in the way and hard to get up in here. The one in the back, however, is pretty tricky, as you need to get over the strut housing, but then you have stuff up top. So this is what worked out for me. I'll get measurements. You need a somewhat deep socket to be able to get up and over and down in there. And then I'm using a 1/2 inch just so I can get some more leverage on it. I'll get a measurement of this size and this size because it worked to get both the driver and passenger side done. I would recommend having tools like this to get the job done. Once the coilovers are in there, it won't be anywhere near as tall, and I think it'll be much easier to get in there and take them on and off. Then I just broke the nuts loose on the front tire, and I got the jack under this middle bit right here. Seems strong enough. I've been jacking it up off of there. Doesn't crunch. I'm pretty sure that's the front jack point. Now we're gonna get this jacked up and get our wheel off, and then we're gonna start disassembling our strut so we can drop it out and put our coilover in. Well, I got it off the ground just a tad. I'm gonna get this wheel off. If it's rusted on there, you might want to give it a kick just to get it to break loose. So, I don't think that is a 14. No, that is a 14. So it looks like we're gonna need a number 12 and a 14. That number 12 would be to get our brake lines off, and that number 14 will be to get our cross bolt out. I already have it loosened up top. It might just need a tad bit of convincing once I get this dropped out. So I'm gonna go get those two, and then we're gonna get those taken off. I got my 12. I got some penetrating oil. I'm just gonna get my penetrating oil down in around the strut, let it seep in, get all that rust and gunk off. And I'm just gonna get some on that cross bolt notch right there. I would recommend doing this way before you're trying to take them off, but I wanna get this done now. So, that was easy. We're gonna get our brake line off. All right, and then when our brake line's off, we're gonna get that cross bolt off. The cross bolt was surprisingly easy. I'm surprised it wasn't rusted on. But we're just gonna get that loose, finger tight now. Sort of kind of finger tight, actually. I'm just gonna do it with the ratchet. My like 3-tooth ratchet. I probably should have got one of my nice ones to have a little more ratcheting in there with the angles. But now I'm just gonna be threading this out with my finger. We're almost through the threads here. All right, we got our cross bolt out. I usually get another jack under here just so I can lower it down as I want to, so it just doesn't pop out. Now I'm just gonna give that a little bit of a tap and our strut a bit of a wiggle. Maybe bring the jack down. All right, and our strut is dropped out. Well, this is a bit funky in here. I'm gonna get this worked out of here and I'll get back with you when I get it to a point where I can get this wiggled out. I actually jacked this strut back up in here, and I'm just gonna finger tight if I can get it to start on the threads. Wow, there we go. So I'm just gonna finger tight this, get this held up in there. Actually, I'll do the other one that's easy to reach as well. So I'm just gonna get these two finger tight up in here, and then I'm gonna try and leave the strut up in there, drop the bottom knuckle out, and then come back and remove the strut after it's disassembled from that knuckle. So, strut's up in there. Give this bottom knuckle some convincing taps. There we go. Now it's out. So I'm gonna go back up in the strut housing, remove those two finger tight nuts. We're gonna get this strut dropped out. I'm gonna be up inside the cab, getting it out and holding this out so it's not drooping out as I'm making the threads go down. We got that off, and our strut's out. Boom. Now we're gonna get that replaced with something better. Here I have the first prototype set that I built for the HA6s and 7s. I'm gonna get this in here right now. Make sure I get that notch lined up. Fits like a glove. Now that I have this in, I'm gonna get my cross bolt back in. I'm just gonna confirm that it's lined up right here. And I have way too much tension on the brake lines. I'm gonna get this pushed through in here. I'm gonna check my camber and make sure that I'm lining my plate up correctly. And I'm just gonna finger tighten that back in there. And with my other jack, I'm going to get this jacked up into the strut housing. Make sure I'm doing it by little bits at a time. I got 2 studs in. All right, that's all of them. I'm just gonna put some tension on it there. I have the coilover up in there. I'm so excited for this. And I'm gonna finger tighten my cross bolts as much as I can right now. And then when it's snugged up, I'm gonna hit it with the ratchet, get that tightened. So I'm just gonna get this snug. I don't have any torque specs, I haven't figured any of that out yet. This is my first go. And even though these are my coilovers and my suspension, I'm probably gonna be doing something a little unconventional on this truck. You know me. So this honestly might be the only video I ever do installing them. If it is, I apologize. I might see if I can get one of my friends out east to do a video for me that's a little more informative. But let's just give this one. There we go. That's in there. So now I still have it jacked up and in there. Also, that definitely brought that knuckle up a ton. And I just have finger tight like preload on this. So I'll probably get some compression out of it, which will also lower us a tad. Also, I'll have my brake line tabs like I do for the older ones. I just don't do that right now. So these are gonna flap around and I don't particularly care. Now we're gonna go back up in the cab and get our bolts back on. I realized when I went to the hardware store yesterday to build these, I didn't get flange nuts for my 3/8 24. So I'm gonna go run to the hardware store real quick and I'll be back when I get those flange nuts to get them put in the strut housing. And I also just recently picked this up, which I will be making parts for, my Honda Life JB1. This one takes priority first, but I'm gonna go take this bad boy over to the hardware store. And this thing is great. Their suspension setup is similar, so I'll probably be adapting these coilovers to the Honda Life, so be on the lookout for those if you have one. But I love this thing. It drives great. Unfortunately, it is an automatic. I couldn't find a manual one, but you can't win them all. But this little car is great. It has the same drivetrain shared with the HA6. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. I'm in a right-hand drive vehicle and those are swapped. That's what I get for driving domestic in this every day. Flange nuts have been acquired, back to the shop. I'm back from the hardware store. I got my 3/8 flange nuts, which I should still be able to use that, oh my god. I can't start the threads on this guy either. Which I should still be able to use the 14 for, if I'm not mistaken. They should be close enough. I probably should be using the SA equivalent, but 14 should still do it to get these guys tightened down. And these have a higher thread pitch than the OEM ones did, and these bolts are a lot longer. I'll probably do locking flange nuts when I sell these, but this is what I got for now, because this is probably not going to be the suspension setup I run, even though it's mine. I'm going to do something cooler. We're getting our third and final one on. I do gotta say that, oh, I got something sitting on top of the ratchet. Let's get this guy out of here. But I do gotta say, putting them back on was so much easier because you don't have that giant top hat coming through anymore. And I bet taking them off in the future will be much easier too. Now you can see the coilover in that strut housing. Got it all tightened up. You can adjust the damping super easy in here, and that's great. Now that we got that up in there, we don't need this to support it anymore. Our little jack dropped out, and we're gonna get our wheel put back on. And now we should be good to drop it. Now it's time to tackle the other side. We're gonna repeat the same exact steps, and I'll get with you when I do that as well.